We're very pleased tonight to have with us Amy Bortner-Gialuco.
Excuse me, Mike.
We're really pleased tonight to be able to present Amy Bortner-Gialuco from the New Hope Metaphysical Society. She is the director there and has a long history and reputation as a channeler, as a teacher, etc. She'll be speaking tonight about channeling and about the links that she perceives among mediums, channelers, psychics, UFO abductees, and folks like that. What's the connection is literally the subject that she wants to discuss. So thanks a lot, and here's Amy.
Well, thank you everybody for inviting me to this illustrious group. It's my first time, and a little nervous because this is the first time actually I've talked about this particular topic. I've never actually talked about it before because it's sort of a private matter for me, in that I've had experiences myself and I have had clients who've had ET experiences, and so it's always been a confidential topic until now. But I thought this would be timely for this period of time and to let people know, my experience and so on. Just to give a brief background, let's see, I began my journey into spirituality and metaphysics at an early age, around 25, 26. And I was given the book Seth Speaks. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but it is a channeled book. And it's very seminal. A lot of people were very influenced by it and have gone on in their own way. Like Alan Cohen, of all people, he read the Seth books first, and a lot of channelers had read the Seth books, and that's what got them started. So is everybody familiar, of course, then with the word channeling and channelers? Does anyone not know what that means? Okay, so we're all on the same page. I have to kind of get a sense of where everybody is. So after reading Seth Speaks, I was very intrigued by the fact that there was an entity who could speak to another entity, another person. I thought, is that possible, and what does that look like? And I was very fortunate at the time. I was working as a paralegal in a legal aid office in Langhorne, and there was a lawyer there whose friend was a channeler, of all things, right? So he introduced me to her, and her name is Sheila Reynolds. You may or may not know her, but she's in Philadelphia, and she started a group called Mind Matters with another friend. And she had started working with the Ouija board originally in her own way, just like Jane Roberts did through channeling Seth. And she started getting information from guides and whatnot, so she began her career as a channeler, eventually channeling her guides. And she started an organization with this friend of hers, and so she offered classes in metaphysics, meditation, contacting your guides, and so on. And so I went to her for a reading, and I was very curious because I wanted to see what a person looked like when they channeled. And so she went into what we call a trance, into a deep, like a hypnotic state. And the entity who spoke through her was named Gay Bonner at the time. And Gay Bonner was a 17th century Scottish woman. And she spoke with a perfect brogue. I mean, that was what was so fascinating, was when Sheila went into trance, her whole personality changed, her demeanor changed, and her accent changed. And she began to tell me things about myself, which were pretty amazing. And she did say that you will be doing something like this channeler's doing someday. And I thought, what? I was not that, aware of my abilities at the time. I was a paralegal, I studied philosophy, I majored in philosophy, I was very intellectual. My father's a judge, or was a judge. So I came from a very intellectually, rationally based family. So I was very, suspicious, that's the word, suspicious. So, but however, I was very intrigued with the channeling phenomena. I wanted to see what it looked like, so I took her class just to see her go into trance in every class, because she would allow her entity to speak at the end of each class and give a little description of a person's experience in the class itself to help clarify their experiences. And so I did. And I took the class actually for 2 years. I was hooked, so. During that time, I met some people who I know now for the rest of my life, including Wayne Hardy, who some of you may know. And he and I met through Sheila's class. And we both kind of began to connect with what we call our spiritual guidance, contactee, whatever, controls during that time. And I connected with an ascended master, so he claimed. During meditation, a name came through, and a sense of a being around me, and the name Dan came into my mind, and I was told I could contact him through what's called automatic writing. And that's a way in which you allow the entity to guide your hand and write a message to you. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is a standard practice now for many people who are introduced into the world of psychic abilities, working with their intuitions, their psychic abilities, and eventually with guides, and their spiritual family, as I call it. So, not knowing anything about that at all, I just said, well, let me give it a shot. You know, I have nothing to lose. So they said to do it at night before you go to bed because your mind is more relaxed and you're more open to suggestion. And they said just listen for a ringing in the ear. And I didn't think I was going to, but for the first week, I heard a ringing in my ear. Wow. And so I said, oh, must be time. So I would sit down and with the pencil and wait, you know, like, okay, what am I going to write? Oh, and then a thought came to mind. Hello, this is Daniel. So I wrote it down. Oh, that's great. And so like the first couple nights, it was just like one sentence. You know, it wasn't much, but because I was scared, I didn't know what I was getting into. And so, but after a few nights, I got more bold and I allowed myself to hear more as I'm hearing, you know, how we hear intuitively. And then Daniel would write some more and more and more and more. And so it became paragraphs and then pages and pages of information. And I was getting very intrigued by all of this. And I went to class and said, I think I'm really in touch with a being that's not really me. And so we just, you know, continued in this fashion. My teacher encouraged me and said, yeah, it's one of your spiritual guides, I'm sure. And so that allowed me to embark on the journey of discovery of what I would now call my spiritual friends and family, which we all have, apparently, in that if you begin to study classic metaphysics, or I'll call it metaphysics, you learn that we are spirits in the flesh, that we are having a human experience, but that we come from spiritual realms and we go back to spiritual realms, and that we don't come here alone, that we're kind of here with a package of soulmates, soul families, guides, guardian angels, spiritual masters, and the like. So we may not know this, which I certainly didn't at the time, but we may discover this. And many people are discovering this as part of their spiritual path. They contact a guide, they connect with an angel, they connect to perhaps a loved one who's deceased. And that's very often the case that, as I've understood, that deceased loved ones can choose to become a guide or a guardian for a family member after they've passed. That's part of their karma, payback, whatever you want to call it, their love for that person. So given that information, I said, all right, let's see what I can explore here in terms of what I can contact. So Daniel worked with me for 5 or 6 years or so. And then I moved to Philadelphia, and that brought on a whole other level of journey and exploration with consciousness. And after that, I began to be able to connect with a series of guides and other beings from other levels. Very naturally, it wasn't like, oh God, what's happening? It was a very smooth transition. It usually happened during a meditation. And so, for example, I was meditating one night about who am I? It was a psychological practice that I picked up from a teacher. And you just spontaneously write down your first thoughts about who you are. I'm a teacher and this and that. And I did it several times, and it was very nice and not really revealing anything. So I said, I'll give it one more shot. And so the third time I did it, I guess I went into a trance or an altered state because, again, it was like automatic writing. Something was writing through my hand, and it was another being. And it said, my name is Escortia Shamalia, and I'm a seraphic angel, and I'm here to tell you that I'm your teacher, and that you're going to, you know, start sending messages of love. And I'm like, what? You know, and I'm writing this, and like, what is this going on? And I'm writing and writing and writing because I'm allowing myself to write. And she wrote like a page or so, and basically was giving me the outline for my future. She was kind of saying, I'm really your true control, let's say. I'm truly partly your oversoul, and that you're connected to the angelic realm. And Daniel was like a medium guide. He was sort of a transitional guide, and now you're going to connect with me because I'm of a higher vibration, and so on and so forth. And this was rather amazing to me, and I didn't know what to expect, but John was there, my husband. He was my client first, and then my student, and then my boyfriend, and now my husband. He saw it all, and so he was there. I don't know if you were there that night. I meditated and did the automatic writing, but afterwards, she wanted to come through me eventually, as Daniel did also. After a year of, say, what do you call it, automatic writing, Daniel came through in voice channeling mode one night. And that was also a very dramatic experience. And, you know, I kind of like couldn't open my eyes, and because I was doing automatic writing sessions for friends at that point, because they were intrigued with who Daniel was, and so he would answer questions for them. And then one night I was doing that, and I said I can't keep my eyes open. I feel like I'm really swooning. And so they just carried me into the living room and said, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, well, we'll just watch you. You know, we'll make sure you're safe. And what happened was that Daniel decided to come through more. He wanted to use my whole body, my voice, my face, everything. So I didn't know that, so it was a real surprise, but I felt him, and I felt myself sinking down into the couch, and sort of him rising up behind me, and I felt him moving my head and my jaw and everything. He was kind of testing the equipment, basically. And I was like, you know, I was doing weird things with my face, and then I felt like a buzzing around my head. It was sort of like a vibrational frequency of energy that I guess he was sending so I could connect in. It's almost like a radio signal, you know, when you channel, it's like you're a radio receiver and you're picking up a signal from the other dimensions. And so I was vibrating and receiving and syncing and all these things. I'm saying, I don't know what to do, I'm scared. They said, just go with it. And so finally the urge was for me to speak. And I said, oh, I guess he wants to speak. So I let myself say something, and he said, in a very low voice, lower than mine, he said, good evening, this is Daniel speaking, like that. And everybody went, whoa! And then he just started talking in that low voice about Zen Buddhism, for whatever reason. He talked about the Eightfold Path and different things about Zen Buddhism, which I don't really know anything about. So that went on for about maybe 10 or 20 minutes. And then he said, the channeler is tiring, I have to leave. So the same thing happened. He kind of whirled himself out of me, and I felt myself rising up kind of in the couch, and him sinking, and then eventually I was able to open my eyes. And my friend went, wow, that was Daniel. And I said, yeah, I could feel it. So at that point I said, well, this is interesting, let's see where this goes. So over time after that, I attempted to do these vocal sessions with my friends at first. And then eventually I sat with groups, and eventually in Philadelphia, I began to give public lectures to many people with Daniel talking. And then Escortia came through, and that was even a bigger thing, because she was from the angelic realm, and she said that the angels are here along with, you know, ascended masters and ET intelligences and all kinds of levels of being to help the planet, you know, ascend, to help the planet carry out its great plan of awakening. And I wasn't even aware of that, you know, the great plan of awakening. I mean, I know I was awakened, but I didn't know the whole planet was supposed to awaken. So she said, yes, indeed, and it's part of like the timeline, the cosmic timeline. It's not just the planet, it's the solar system, it's the galaxy, it's the universe is actually doing an upgrade. So this is what it looks like, you know, on planet Earth, that we're moving, the experiment is, and it's an experiment, is that while we're still in three-dimensional bodies, we'll be moving into the fourth and then ultimately the fifth density frequency. And so that's interesting. So she said, we're going to help, you know, the planet ascend into this fifth dimensional frequency ultimately. Will take time. There'll be a lot of upheaval, and we're here to help people handle, you know, the tumult and the process that everyone must go through to handle the upgrade. Simply put. Okay, you have a question?
Just, may I say something about the Maya culture? They're talking about the 2012 was the time for changes.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And so there's many predictions about this time that have come together. At 2012 rather, was a very propitious time on many different calendars and many different timelines. To indicate the end of the age, say, of Pisces, as we know it in Western terms, and the beginning of the age of Aquarius and the age of awakening, and the great 2,000 years of peace, apparently that's going to happen at some point in the future on the planet Earth. So with that overview, then it's going to say, and I'm here to channel through you messages of love and support and guidance and inspiration for people who are going to start to feel real funny, you know. And so this was like, how many years ago? 1987. So she was ahead of her time because almost 30 years ago, people are just beginning to start to awaken now and going through upheaval and tumultuousness, like say in the last 5 years. So she was way ahead of her time, and so we didn't feel it as much then. We were just curious about what she meant by that. So she engaged in a lot of channeling and lectures about that issue and helped many people through. Eventually I gave readings and private sessions with people, with guides, with Daniel, with Discordia, and a whole slew of other personalities that I was open to channel as well. So eventually I began to channel from 1990 to 93, 1960s personalities who had died, mostly rock stars, rock and roll stars. So I channeled John Lennon, I channeled Jimi Hendrix, I channeled Jim Morrison, more recently I channeled Michael Jackson, and so actually those channelings are here tonight in case you're interested. They were very interesting explorations of these beings who said that, you know, we're not really dead. We haven't really left. You know, we're here in spiritual form. We're guides and masters. We're observing the earth plane. We will be helping certain people. And it's kind of true. There's been several people who've come out and written books about John Lennon, who is their guide, you know, and I've seen these books around. Yeah, go ahead.
Amy, you said there's upheavals. Is that personal upheavals or
everything? Personal, physical, social, political, everything you can think of is in upheaval. And as you can see, you know, with this particular what do you call it, candidacy of the presidency, that was kind of strange and tumultuous, and it's an upheaval for a lot of people who didn't expect Trump to win, and it's an upheaval, you know, for a lot of reasons. So this is typical of what's supposed to be going on, because it's allowing us to question our institutions. It's allowing us to take a second look at the validity of the institutions as they stand now. Now, she claims, and so did Daniel, that all of these institutions, the political, the governmental, the educational, the religious, any of the authorities that we look at for guidance, are not going to be able to do that as well. They're going to be falling apart. They're going to have internal struggles, corruption, you know, disassemblage and reassemblage. So what's going to happen is we're going to start to look to ourselves and to each other as community to help support each other in these times, because we can't rely on the old institutions to give us, you know, the answers that we've had in the past. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't even apply anymore. I mean, that was really profound when she said that, and that was years ago, and I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't see it then as much as I see it now. And so it's important for us to know that this is the plan, is that for things are to fall apart, things are supposed to fall apart, so that new things will come up from it. Like from the rubble will spring, you know, the new plants. And what she said is that all of these groups that are forming, especially through Meetup, the meditation groups, the UFO groups, the spiritual support groups, are laying the foundation for a new order of being, a new order of social order, actually. So that the more we connect in this way, the more we're actually solidifying a new order for the new millennium. So it's really important to support each other, you know, in these meetings and these groups and everything like that. So she said that years ago, and so again, I say it's much more relevant now. What she said then, that I see from what she said. So that's just a kind of an overview of, you know, me and my endeavors to be the messenger for Daniel, for Discordia, for Landau, for the rock stars, for all these beings who came through to me to kind of just educate and inspire people to know about who they truly are as, again, spirits, spiritual beings having a human experience. That this is truly just one dimension of many multi-dimensions that exist in the physical as well as non-physical universes is so complex and so vast that it's very difficult to really understand, but that you can take a beginning step by just understanding the vastness of your own being and the vastness of your own support group. Your guides, your guardian angel, your soul family, your soulmates, all of that is in the mix. And some of you may have had some experiences with reincarnation, memories. Some have had experience with, oh, my soulmate, I met my soulmate. And others have had experiences with other dimensional creatures and encounters and so on and so forth. This is all an indication now that we're all beginning to remember who we are, one way or another, in faulting steps or big steps or little steps. For me, it was big steps because I had to integrate so many concepts and so many insights over the year that I'm pretty sure that I've got a big picture of who I am and what I'm about. But people are still learning and still in their path of learning what they can, when they can, where they can. Now, given that, I believe then that channelers and mystics and intuitives also are prime sources of information and access to the other worlds, to other dimensions, including the ET worlds and ET dimensions. And in fact, many of my channeling friends have said that they have had contact as a child or had abductions or whatever you want to call them growing up, and that they became channelers either in spite of it or because of it. And so I personally have not had a known physical contact, but I can say that when I was 15, I do remember waking up from a deep sleep, and sitting bolt upright, hearing somebody talking to me in my ear, like telepathically, and seeing a star or some kind of light outside in the sky quickly receding back so that it became a little tiny point of light. And I immediately said in my own mind, well, that's a UFO. And I, thought, okay, I've been contacted. And I wasn't afraid. It was the strangest thing. In fact, I went right back to sleep. And I kind of forgot about that experience until in my 40s, because I had a series of dreams that indicated that I may have been either trying to avoid abduction or whatever. Like I had a dream that I was a little child in my parents' house, and there was a spaceship above trying to send a beam down into my parents' room, and I was avoiding the beam in the dream. Get out here, you're not gonna take me. And then I had another dream where I was in a spaceship, and there was a ton of people in the spaceship. It was like a loading dock or something. And it looked like a human environment, like a big banquet hall or something. And I said to myself, oh, they're trying to make it look human, to make us comfortable. And in that dream again, I escaped from that spaceship. It was kind of a dream, but it wasn't, it didn't feel real. It felt more dreamlike, but who knows? It may have been a memory of something that occurred, I actually don't know. And then I did have a dream once later where I was with benevolent ETs, and I was in a spaceship that had like a really wide window, curved window, and we were flying over the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And they were kind of on an observation mission, just taking notes about the traffic patterns and the highways. And I'm with them, for some reason. I'm saying, oh, isn't it a shame that Pennsylvania Turnpike's always so crowded, and it's dirty, and it's never, finished. And just going, yeah, okay, I might miss down, And they're just taking notes and about the state of things in the environment. I thought that was very humorous, because they all wore jumpsuits, like your typical picture, 50s, ETs wearing those jumpsuits. They were humans. They were men, 2 men and a woman, I think, black hair, about our size. Nothing any different about them. Thank goodness. I don't think I could handle the other kinds, but for me anyway, that was, comforting. So those were my early experiences. I did also notice that when I was a young girl, I used to look up at the sky a lot, and then when I started on my channeling adventure, I would have feelings sometimes of like, I'm not really in my home planet. I felt like my home planet was somewhere else. I don't know why I felt that, but I did. And so consequently, I've always had that feeling that, well, maybe I am from another world or other dimension or place. And this is even before I channeled Scordy. This was when I channeled Daniel, but it was right before I channeled Scordy and all the other beings. So I wasn't even aware, of that possibility that could be true. Okay, let me see. Any questions so far about what I've been saying? Any comments? Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that we really need to open ourselves beyond the personality that we've known ourselves to be. Otherwise, you won't have those type of experiences. You have to be open.
That's true. You do have to be open. And as a channel, I probably was open enough to be able to receive, that energy. And so, yes, it does require an open mind, an open heart, and an ego that's willing to subsume its desire to always be safe, to always make us safe and secure. Yeah.
What are some cautionary things? Because there's a lot of other things on the fourth level.
Sure.
So what are some of the cautionary things a person should be aware of?
Well, once you open yourself up, you're fair game in a way for other beings who want to also connect with you. So I've had other negative experiences too, with like astral attacks, psychic attacks, entities trying to roll me out of bed, entities, things like that. And I had to learn that was part of the deal, that I had to become strong enough to repel it, repel them. So like in a dream, I would have to say, white light and put the cross in front of them or fight them back. And I guess it was a test for me of my power or my ability to withstand these kinds of ingresses from the lower astral realms, as I call them. And it was in one particular apartment where all this happened too. So it was really weird. Every night I'd have some kind of encounter, and so I got used to it. And so either what doesn't kill you makes you strong. So I got really strong, and eventually, hopefully, I can handle any kind of astral attack now. In fact, one time I remember there was a being that was trying to roll me off the bed, and I turned around and punched it, and
Wow.
and it kind of went whoa, and it kind of disappeared, and I woke up, So that's how you have to get at some point, if you know that they're out always after you. So I would say yes, the dark, if you want to call it, or the less than light, are attracted to the light. So if you are a channel and you're channeling a light frequency, of course you're going to be a beacon of light for both sides. So yeah, you have to be aware of that. And so I did have to learn about psychic self-defense and all the goodies that you're not told about when you start out. So yeah, question?
I was just wondering, from your point of view, what is the fourth and what would be the fourth and fifth dimensions for you?
Not sure, really.
Yeah.
I've had other people describe them, and I have an article that was written in one of my newsletters that I wrote called Across the Universe, where a guy talks about walking into the fourth dimension. And he was actually my teacher. His name was Arne Spector, and he worked with ETs actually, and he had a friend named Megan who would channel ETs in the park for him, and they were very benevolent ETs. They were ones that were in ships that were like cleaning the atmosphere and clearing the water and monitoring the nuclear power plants and monitoring the nuclear arsenals. And so there's a whole, I'm sure, band of them that are always here to just make sure that we don't kill ourselves completely. And so that was the level that he was working with. And he felt that one day he and Megan felt that they had actually inadvertently walked into the fourth dimension. He said he felt lighter, it was cooler, the colors were brighter, and he just knew somehow he was in the fourth dimension. Fifth dimension is supposed to be the dimension of unconditional love. And so at that point, and Ms. Scordy had said that we have to be conditioned and properly reconfigured to appreciate that dimension, because in that one, the heart is the predominant focus. And so the heart chakra has to become the predominant chakra of your energy system. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that the Fifth Dimension music group had the song Age of Aquarius?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was pretty dramatic.
Exactly.
So what is the main chakra right now that we're in?
Well, we have all 7 or 8 chakras working in tandem with each other, maybe up to 12. Some people believe there's 12 chakras. But as Scordy said, the heart chakra will become like the larger chakra and will be more integrated with the other chakras with love. So that when we, for example, feel emotion, the emotion will always be combined with compassion. or forgiveness. So it's not always about ego or lust, or or if we feel lust, it'll also be combined with love. So it'll be more integrated feeling states. Yes.
It's like about something like we need to start to eat meat, to eat more vegetable and fruit, to start to feeding animals.
That's part of the process of feeling more compassion, I would say, yes. On the planet, you become more compassionate and aware of other forms of consciousness, and are they necessary to kill, to eat, or can you evolve into just vegetarianism, where some people just breathe air? And and I found that I needed solar energy. I needed the sunlight very much more than food at some point, though I still eat food. But after channeling, for example, I felt depleted, and what would energize me was the sunlight. And I'd have to sit for hours, and I would absorb the sunlight and feel more and more better. So that's an involvement there too. Strengthening. Yes.
I was curious about the
sorry,
different. Were you pointing to someone else? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just the different categories, because you have the one that's an angel, and then Daniel, it said, was a master, an ascended master. Like, what are the different categories, and what about the animal spirit guides? Like,
sure.
Many cultures that believe that animals are a representation of animals, are the spirit guides. Do you have like animals that come through the channel, or?
Wow. Okay. So I was classically trained, let's say, in the understanding that on the human level we have a family of guides, and so we have our personal guide, our highest guide, our spirit guide, and then we have a guide team. And within that guide team, there are some that stay with us all our lives, and then some that leave, depending on choices we make in our life. And we call in new guides. We also have a guardian angel. And everyone's assigned a guardian angel. That's absolutely true. And I know my guardian angel's name, and I've known other people's guardian angels' names. There was a time when I was tuned into that for a while. And then I know we have a soul family that we've reincarnated with over many lifetime experiences. And so they often come in with us in each lifetime, and as a brother or friend or an ally or something. And we know these people because we feel like, oh, I've known you all my life, or I'm very comfortable with you. I don't know why, but I feel so comfortable with you. Usually these people are part of your soul family. One more thing. Then we have the Ascended Masters, and they are the beings who've mastered the earth plane and the reincarnational cycle. Apparently, you don't have to reincarnate if you believe in such a thing. Every time you die, you can move on to other trainings and also other worlds. And eventually, if you feel complete, you no longer have to reincarnate at all to the human plane, the earth plane experience. And so many of these beings are called master teachers because they've mastered all the lessons that they wanted to learn, or were required to learn perhaps, on the earth plane, like dimensions, and so, earth-like planets rather. And so they in turn join various organizations to become of service to other souls who are taking on earth plane experiences. So they're called the Ascended Masters. And so like Jesus, Sananda, Jesus is an Ascended Master. Buddha is an Ascended Master. Some of the great religious teachers were Ascended Masters, returning in physical form to teach. And so there was the group called the Great White Brotherhood, and it has nothing to do with color, but it means the white light. But that's one of the big ones that a lot of the Ascended Masters belong to and are referred to from other books like the Theosophical Society, and Alice Bailey refers to the Great White Brotherhood. Yes?
Just to piggyback on what you were talking about.
I'll get right to you.
In the Native American culture, just like in Shinto religion of Japan, there's somewhat of an ancestral worship, quote unquote. It's actually to maintain connection to those individuals' afterlife.
Yes.
But more importantly, the vision quest that Native American youth go through prepares them for that connectedness, where they develop in a totem, meaning a guide through an animal or creature that they come encounter with.
Yeah.
And that helps them get into that mentality where, yes, I can keep connected with Grandpa that way.
Yeah, yes, there's many in a culture
sometimes through the totem.
Yes, the totem, yeah. I didn't learn in that way myself, of course, but I am aware of that tradition, and those are the traditional ways to connect with your family and your ancestry especially. Yes, okay, let me get back to you.
Are you able to channel on demand?
I used to be. I don't do that now, but you know, I can. They're always there. You know, they're always present in my field, and I can contact them. But I haven't done that in a while. I've stopped channeling professionally for like 15 years or so because of various reasons. But so I'm more about the educational aspect now of the information that is channeled, because there's so much that I've channeled actually, that it's libraries of information that I will spend the rest of my life transcribing and putting into books if I ever have a chance to do that. Yeah.
Did you, when you're able to channel on demand, did you find a drawback to doing that?
Not really, not really. I think I was in a kind of a constant state of preparedness for about 15 years. You know, it's just like, I don't know what, but I had the energy to do it. And
so if you weren't in that prepared state, you'd probably find there's drawbacks or certain shifts.
Tiredness, yeah, the energetic drain. And certainly I was drained, but I was able to bounce back. You know, I was younger. I started channeling when I was 29. And you know, didn't and continued till I was 50. So within that time period, you know, I had a lot of energy. And yeah, okay, your comments again.
One more quick one.
Yeah, sure.
As your spiritual self has grown, as you nurture that, do you have any identifiable decreases in like the physical needs of the physical self? Like where you eat less, or where
my
food isn't as important as inspiration?
Probably. I mean, I probably don't have to eat as much as I think I do. I probably have to drink more than I need to, than I have. It seems like water is more important. Nutrition, proper nutrition is always very important when you channel, and because you're using some of your reserves, your energy. So sleep has been a problem for me since I started channeling. Big problem, and so yeah, that's always been a challenge.
One thing I remember you were saying that you felt depleted, that you needed that sunlight, so apparently it was depleting your D3 and the essential vitamins in your system.
Right. Yeah.
From what I made out from that.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of silica is burnt up.
Right. He was saying he used silica.
Or like a Ferrari, and they use up a lot of silica. So she would go to the beach. Certainly, the sun regulates that.